What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. You got your Google and Alexa home devices. The app, download it, take it on the go wherever you're at. Video streams also up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Hopefully, all had a fantastic weekend and ready to hit up a brand new work week here. What do we got on? What do we got on our game plan for us this morning? Brewers, they picked up another series win. Some close games over the week. Friday falling 6-5. Saturday picking up a 3-1 win. Then yesterday a 5-4 win for the Brewers. Although kind of holding some breath here to see how Contreras is doing. It was an exciting out last play. Blake Perkins throwing the potential tying run out at the plate, but with a collision there too with Contreras. He is Contreras right now is undergoing a being tested for concussion. So hopefully being evaluated for concussion is what I was trying to say. Hopefully nothing too serious there, but definitely a nasty hit there at the plate. So hopefully he's good, and hopefully he'll be able to return here soon, because now the Brewers begin a West Coast trip here where they've got 3 games against the Angels starting tonight, and then they've got the Padres for 4 games before returning home to Milwaukee next Monday. But the Crew right now holding on to a 6.5 game lead over the St. Louis Cardinals. And we have a new team that's in dead last place in the NL Central. That's the Chicago Cubs. Chicago Cubs now 8.5 back from Milwaukee. The rest of the division, you got Cincinnati, who is 8 back, Pittsburgh, who is also 8 back. But the Cardinals now moving up to 500 on the season there. So now they've got the Marlins coming up here. So maybe inching a little bit closer, potentially. I don't know. But nonetheless, how you feeling, Cubs fans, if you are a Cubs fan right now, about your ball club? So we'll talk some Brewers, recapping this series win, looking ahead to Game 1 between the Brewers and the Angels. It's going to be a late one, first pitch. You're talking about close to 8:40 tonight, so it'll be a little bit of a late night to be tuning in. It's going to be a late night, for the majority part of these games up until Saturday is about 6:15, and then Sunday, little getaway day, will be 3:10. So plenty of baseball talk coming up here with the Crew. Also, it's the weekend hangover. What was the highs? What was the lows? What was the best? What was the worst from the from the weekend there? Let us know your picks. All right, hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or comments on the video stream as well. So we'll get to that coming up here a little bit. We're going to reveal the brackets, the entire 64 athletes as nominated by you, the listeners. So if you don't like them, it was the listeners who nominated them. So we will unveil the bracket for the most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time, and I think we'll probably put up the first voting coming up here. So in case you missed all of last week and such, it's kind of a summer project, one of the many summer projects that we're going to be doing here. But we are going to decide who is the most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time. And we took nominations from all of you, and whoever received multiple votes, whoever got the most votes, that's who made the top 16. We're not going to seed them or anything like that. It's going to be randomized in terms of matchups and such. But we do have regions. We do have particular regions. So we've got the Packers region, We've got the Brewers region, which we finalized up on Friday with Brandon, which thanks to a lot of you, we had a lot of names being out there, and it was close for the final couple spots there. But we got a Brewers region. We've also have a Badger region, so it's a mixture of football, basketball, hockey, that sort of thing, and then an open region, which does include some Bucks players and some other athletes, some Olympians, and all that good stuff there too. So we will reveal the brackets a little bit later on, and we'll put up the first matchup, and it's going to be determined by you, the listener. So if you want to partake in this, easiest way to do it, make sure you're following along on Facebook. All right, Facebook or Twitter/X. So look me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Kasper Sports. That's Kasper with a K. Or on the X/Twitter at DANKASPER. So we can get your votes, because, again, it's going to be decided by you. If you don't like how it goes, if you don't like how who's advancing and such, hey, go vote. All right. It's going to be all determined by you, the listeners. So came down to some crunch time picks here too when I tallied up all the votes over the weekend. A lot of you sending me some private messages or DMs. The kids still call it DMs these days. So had to add up who got multiple votes, and every single person who was in our bracket received multiple votes. So it wasn't just a one-off or anything like that. So got some interesting names, no doubt about it. I think maybe we'll throw out a Brewer one to open up. I don't know. We'll see. But again, we got 4 regions: Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks/open. So that's coming up a little bit later on here as well. So what else are we gonna get on our game plan here for us this morning? U.S. Open yesterday, a little drama towards the end. Bryson DeChambeau picking up another U.S. Open championship. Rory McIlroy struggling with the putter down at towards the end there, missing the putt on the final hole there too, a 3-footer. God, that just has to be an awful feeling, just an absolutely awful feeling for Rory. But nonetheless, Bryson DeChambeau is your U.S. Open champ. We've got the NBA Finals do continue with Dallas picking up a win a couple nights ago. So we've got Game 5 tonight, Dallas at Boston. Will it be over with tonight, or will it be extended? Can Dallas extend this? Stanley Cup final as well. Not a sweep there. Edmonton did pick up a win, but they'll be in action tomorrow night to try to extend that series as well. So, but let's get things rolling here this morning. All right. Let's talk a little Brewers to open up things. The Crew with another series win against the Cincinnati Reds over the weekend. It was some tight games, some tough games and such, but now the Brewers kind of crossing their fingers that there's nothing, that Willie Contreras won't be out too long, if at all, being evaluated for a concussion because of the play at the plate yesterday afternoon to end the game there. But the Brewers picking up 2 out of 3 after dropping the first series, and now they've got the Angels on their schedule. Carlos Rodriguez is going to get to start tonight. The rest of the starting rotation is going to be Tobias Myers tomorrow, and then Freddie Peralta getting the start on Wednesday. Freddie Peralta, not the greatest of starts the other day, too. For career high 10 hits. We were just talking about him on Friday there, too, as he kind of playing up to your expectations, playing up to that ace type of level right now, and probably we jinxed him here a little bit and such, but hopefully he can bounce back and have a good performance coming up here in a couple of nights here. So, but all across baseball too, one of the bigger stories, Mookie Betts is going to be out for a bit. He fractured his left hand, so couple big time injuries across Major League Baseball, specifically affecting the Remember Brewers, Ronald Acuna Jr., Mookie Betts saying it's not going to be season ending. So, but how we shall see. Yamamoto strained his rotator cuff too. So for the Dodgers, could potentially things open up a little bit in the National League. We'll see. But let's get things going here. We'll talk some baseball to open up as we are approaching too, by the way, nearly halfway through the regular season. We're approaching halfway through the regular season. So kind of getting to another benchmark here, right? Kind of getting to another benchmark. So, but let's talk some Brew Crew. Give me your thoughts on this series win for the Brewers from this past weekend. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Getting things rolling on this Monday morning. Let's talk a little Brewers to open it up here, shall we? Brew Crew picking up another series win for the Brewers after taking 2 out of 3 against the Cincinnati Reds. Dropping the first game on Friday night, but bouncing back and picking up a 3-1 victory on Saturday, and then yesterday's very entertaining close game, and then the throw out at the plate there, thanks to Blake Perkins making a pretty dang good throw, and then Contreras sitting there and taking the hits, and hopefully not banged up too much. But we're kind of waiting to hear that. But kind of an epic weekend for the Brewers overall. I mean, one day you have Snoop Dogg hanging out with you and doing all that stuff, throwing out the first pitch and all that. But and then yesterday with the way the game ended and such. So, but not a bad weekend overall for the Crew picking up another series win. Now they head to the West Coast and get set for another series against the Los Angeles Angels. But before we talk a little bit about this game tonight, going up against the Angels and going up on the West Coast here, let's kind of do a little bit of a recap from this weekend and such. So going back to Friday night's game, where the Brewers fell 6-5, and they had a shot. Towards the end there, but Blake Perkins, kind of an interesting weekend for Blake Perkins here. But Blake Perkins up at the plate, Brewers already had 2 runners come across in the bottom of the 9th inning there. But Blake Perkins deciding to go for a bunt, and didn't work out afterwards. After the game, admitted that probably wasn't the best decision, even going as far as to say maybe the moment got a little too big. For him. So rally falling just a bit short on that Friday night game, and going back to a couple comments from Perkins from Friday night's game. He said that I think I kind of let the moment get a little too big for me. I feel really dumb, but tomorrow's a new day, and I hope to contribute tomorrow in a better way. Pat Murphy after the game said, "It hurts me inside because I'm hurting for him, not only for our team, but I'm hurting for him. Ill-advised decision." So they went Brewers again, just to kind of recap it, went into that bottom of the 9th inning, facing a 6-3 deficit. After Freddie Peralta, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, career high 10 hits, giving up a career high 10 hits, along with 6 runs and 5 in the third. But thanks to some errors and some issues with the Reds defenders, Brewers were able to make a little bit of a comeback, close that gap. But the decision to bunt by Blake Perkins at the end there didn't work out. So, but going back to Freddie Peralta, we talked about him last Friday, and we kind of threw out a question, like, how would you kind of grade, if you will, what Freddie Peralta has done so far this season? Guy who gets the ace role. He's the new number 1 starter. And so far this year, he's 4-4 with a 4.38 ERA. And he's coming off of giving up 10 hits and 6 earned runs. How would you assess how Freddie Peralta is doing this year? And maybe he gets a little bit of, shall we say, extra pressure on him because he's got, he is viewed as the ace of the staff. He is viewed as the number 1 starter, opening day starter and such. But how would you assess how Freddie Peralta has been thus far? Maybe you're like 4-4, 4 points up the ERA, average at best. He's average at best right now. I think I know we put a lot of maybe higher expectations on him. Getting labeled as that number 1 guy, that number 1 starter in the rotation. but I also think he's having a little bit of a down year. I think that's fair to say. Not a knock on him or anything. I don't know if he'd say the same thing, but I think he's probably not having the type of season thus far that he expected, maybe the Brewers expected, maybe some fans expected. It hasn't been like awful by any means, but I think you'd like to see maybe some more consistency from him, solid consistency from him. And I think we haven't really seen that thus far when it comes to Freddie Peralta. And I think if you're going to be that number one guy, if you're going to be the number one starter in this rotation, I'd like to see a little bit more of that consistency out there. So, but you know, we'll see how he bounces back coming up here against the Angels. But the offense, they tried to will their way back. Heck, I mean, I'll even give. I want to go back to Friday night's game here. Give a little bit of a shout out to the bullpen too for keeping the Brewers in. Milner came in, finished up for Peralta. Nothing, no hits, nothing. Hernandez coming in and pitching 3 innings and not giving up a hit. Did issue 1 walk, but the bullpen holding it down and allowing that offense to kind of creep back into it and make things close. Make things close. So Snoop Dogg Day on Saturday, apparently, with him in town and such, throwing out the first pitch, going in the broadcast booth, hanging out with the Brewers and the clubhouse and such, maybe providing a little bit of good luck charms over there. But the Brewers on Saturday picking up a 3-1 victory. Wilson, I know Koenig got the start, but Wilson picked up the win. Another opening situation there. But Bryce Wilson picking up his 4th win of the season, and he was pretty darn solid. You got to give this guy a lot of credit for what he has done. A couple pitchers I want to talk about from that game here. But Bryce Wilson picking up his 4th win, 5 1/3, just giving up 3 hits, striking out 6. Dude was solid. Bryce Wilson was darn solid. And this is coming off of, let's call it, a bad performance against Detroit a few days prior, back on the 9th, where he went 4 1/3 and he gave up 7 earned runs against the Tigers. That's a heck of a bounce-back performance by Bryce Wilson. So shout out to the kid, to the 26-year-old. So far this year, he's appeared in 17 games and he started 8 of them. Kind of probably would have a couple more starts on there if it wasn't for the opener and Koenig coming in there for the first inning and such. But numbers tell us otherwise. But given how he started off the season, what his role was going to be at the beginning of the season to where it's at now, Bryce Wilson, I think you got to tip your cap to him. He's having a nice season. And he had a heck of a performance on Saturday. The other pitcher I want to talk about is Mr. Hudson, Brian Hudson. Brian Hudson this year, if there is a relief pitcher or a pitcher that deserves some all-star chat, my money, I'm going with Brian Hudson. 25 games he's appeared in. He's got a 4-0 record and a sub-1 ERA, 0.95 ERA. The guy came in against Cincinnati, pitched a couple innings, didn't give up a single hit, struck out a couple. No walks issued either. None. Brian Hudson has been a nice find for the Brewers this year. He has been an incredible find for the Brewers. Some of the numbers that really stand out to me for Hudson is not only does he go in there and he pitches a couple innings, he's not a guy that, okay, 1 inning and you're done. I mean, in every one of his outings, if we go throughout his season thus far, there has only been 2 times where he hasn't pitched at least a full-on inning. And those 2 times, you got to go back to April. That was April 9th against Cincinnati and April 14th against Baltimore. After that, 2 1/3, 2 1/3, 1 2/3, 1 2, 1 2 2 1 2. I mean, the guy can give you at least a couple innings. But the other thing that really stands out to me, actually, a couple more numbers here. Strikeouts so far this year. If you want to look at some strikeout numbers for Brian Hudson, he's got 45 strikeouts in 38 innings pitched. And you want to know how many walks the guy has given up? 8. 8 walks so far in 25 games. That's it. In 25 games and 38 innings pitched, he has just given up 8 walks. He gave up 5 in the month of April, 2 in the entire month of May, and 1 so far, but has not issued a walk in his last 3 games. Brian Hudson, I don't know if he'll get to the All-Star game because it's such a popularity contest. Every All-Star game is at this point, but for a pitching staff and for a bullpen that hasn't had their all-star closer, and you have, bullpen arms being transitioned into starters and openers and all that, Brian Hudson has been fantastic this season. Absolutely fantastic so far this season. I mean, the dude's big. He's like 6'8" and such up there, so he's a little imposing on the mound. But got to give that guy a ton of credit. Brian Hudson has been awesome this year. Absolutely awesome. And he was again on Saturday. His 10th hold also so far this season. 10th hold. Now, I saw some people on the socials speculating about this, and I don't know if it'll be a thing this year, but with the way that Hudson has been performing, there's been some, and this is just from what I saw on social media. I don't know if any of our listeners have kind of thought about this either. But, with the way that Hudson has been performing and at high pressure situations too, it's not like, every single one of his appearances has been just going in there with a comfortable lead or anything like that. That dude has been put in some tough situations. But there's been some thoughts, at least from Brewers fans on social media, about could he be the potential future closer for this team? And would it allow the Brewers maybe to move on from Devin Williams? Now, right now, I think maybe that talk's a little premature because we haven't seen Devin Williams pitch at all this year, and that means no other team has seen him pitch at all this year. And by the time he comes back, it'll be right at that trade deadline or maybe even after. I don't see Devin Williams being traded this year, although I could be completely wrong. But could it be a potential role for Hudson in the future? Maybe that's a possibility. But yeah, he's been darn impressive, no doubt about it. Then yesterday with the win, the Brewers, a little bit of a comeback there. They were originally down 3-0 heading into the bottom of the 5th, picked up a run, but then in the 6th, tacking on 3, then another one in the 7th. But Colin Ray picked up his 6th win of the season. He went 6 innings, 2 earned runs, just 3 runs, just 2 of them earned, 1 walk, 6 Ks, giving up a home run over there too. But Colin Ray, 6-2 so far this year. He lowered his ERA to a 3.29. And this is coming off of his performance against Toronto, where he was awesome too. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run. It was a few weeks ago when you were talking about Colin Ray, and a lot of you out there, at least the ones that chimed in, is like when Colin Ray's on the mound, you get a little nervous. You just don't know what to expect from Colin Ray when he's out there. You get a little nervous. But so far in this month of June, Colin Ray has been, got to give the guy credit. He's been pretty darn good. He's appeared in 3 games, 2-0 with a 1.59 ERA. He's given up just 3 earned runs in these 3 starts. And overall this year, I mean, for a guy that came on the scene last year, again, because of injuries, we didn't know who the heck this early 30-year-old pitcher was that spent the majority part of his career in the minors, and all of a sudden now he's with the Brewers because of injuries, and it's like, okay. And then, coming into this year, you're like, oh, okay, maybe average at best. But Colin Ray is 6-2 with a 3.29 ERA right now. We were asking about Freddie Peralta and how would you assess his season thus far. If we throw that out to Colin Ray, maybe it's a little bit of the opposite. I think Colin Ray, does he make me a little nervous out there whenever he's out? Yeah, maybe a little bit, just because I think it's, we saw him last year and we've seen him this year, but it's not as big of a sample size. And I think part of it, though, too, is just like maybe he's still a little bit of an unknown. Like this guy that came out of nowhere and he's like, oh, okay, he's pitching really well. And it's like, who is this guy? So maybe we're still a little skeptical. Maybe we don't want to drink too much of the Kool-Aid. And I'm not saying Colin Ray is going to go out there and be a number one guy for the rest of his career, whatever. But there's no denying the numbers. Colin Ray is having a pretty darn good season for this Brewers team, a Brewers pitching staff that has been decimated by injuries. He's stepped up. He has stepped up, and he has done a pretty darn good job so far this year. And I think you got to give the guy some credit. And I think maybe maybe Brewers fans, we need to give him a little bit more credit. Not everybody, but maybe the majority. Maybe we're like, okay, yeah, this guy's doing pretty good this year. And given the struggle, or don't want to say necessarily struggles, but just the amount of different starters that we've had to throw out there and the different pitchers we've had to throw out there. And Colin Ray he's been there and he's been having a pretty darn good season. So shout out to Colin Ray, 6-2 right now. Offensively, you want to know who's playing pretty darn well? Well, I mean, gotten a couple of dudes who've been playing pretty darn well here as of late. But Christian Yelich continues to rake. Christian Yelich is continuing to produce at the plate. Maybe, the power ball has slowed down since the beginning of the season, where it's like, oh, maybe the power is back with Christian Yelich here. He's hitting home runs. Then he gets hurt, comes back, and we haven't seen that power since we saw like in the first month or so of the season. But the guy is continuing to get on base. You look at his last 7 games. He's hitting .360, an on-base percentage of a .429, and he's slugging .400. If we want to expand it to his last 57 at-bats, Christian Yelich is hitting .404 with a .462 on base and a .456 slugging. So far this year, hitting .333, an on base of a .411, an OPS of a .917. By far higher than his career averages, career highs. Christian Yelich just continues to produce at the plate. Jackson Chourio, I know he went hitless in his last couple games here and such, but when you look at his last 7 games, and this is what we're going to have to take with the youngster, right? You're going to have some good stretches, probably going to have some poor stretches for the rookie. But right now, maybe he's kind of in a little bit of a good stretch here. Last 7 games, he's hitting .273, and he's slugging .409. And he's got an on-base percentage of a .407. He's got 7 dingers so far this year. When you look at his overall season numbers, you're like, .222 and just a .276 on base and a .630 OPS. Probably not like giving you like, oh, that's an awesome season. But when you put it into a bigger picture of this guy, maybe a handful of games at AAA, this year you're going to have the growing pains with him. You're going to have the highs and you're going to have the lows. But you go back to Friday night's game, guy had a couple hits, got on base 4 times, 2 hits, 4 walks, or 2 walks 4 times. You're going to have those highs and flows, or highs and lows when it comes to Jackson Chourio. And I think that's what's even makes this team and their success that they've had so far this year even more impressive, is that they're working in this rookie and they're getting him at bats and playing time. And you're going to have those highs and lows. And yet here they are, still in first place. And then you got Blake Perkins, who, as we were talking a little bit about earlier, Blake Perkins, who decided to lay down the bunts in Friday night's game, regretted it, comes back yesterday, makes the throw at the plate to get the out so the Reds can't tie up the game, ends the game on the throw out there. Blake Perkins has been a guy this year who has no doubt displayed his pretty darn good defense, whether it's been diving catches in the outfield, showing his speed and tracking down fly balls in center field. He has shown his defensive play this year. Offensively, I mean, again, pretty streaky, but he's got career highs in his batting average. He's so far this year, he's got 5 home runs, 248 on base of a 322, OPS 691. But can get a little streaky. If we break down his last 7 games, Blake Perkins just hitting 182, slugging 182. But if we expand it to his last 15 games, well, then his batting average explodes to a 294 and his slugging's at a 392. But it's going to be interesting when Garrett Mitchell comes back. And I know he's been on some rehab assignments and working his way, and he's going to be close to coming back here. How they kind of implement Garrett Mitchell and Blake Perkins. Garrett Mitchell, higher upside on the offensive side of things. But Blake Perkins has made he's been playing some solid defense out there too. And maybe he's just that typical fourth man, fourth outfielder, part of the rotation there. It could be. Absolutely could be. Defensive replacement and such. But got to give him his flowers too. He has been making some pretty darn impressive defensive plays out there. All right, let's take a quick break here. Join in on the convo, though. You can hit us up with some text messages on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break, and we'll finish up the first hour coming up after these quick words. Get on the bus with us as Milwaukee takes on Minnesota July 21st, Sunday, July 21st. Day game. Just head to wiscotrips.com or you can head to sportstalk1051.com and you have that link over there. All the details are on the website, all right? All the details and to purchase your tickets, all at wiscotrips.com for just 95 bucks. That includes a game ticket and round trip motor coach transportation. Details on when you will be leaving, which is at 9 a.m. sharp on Sunday. All that's on the website. Just a note, you will need to have, remember, Ballpark app on your cell phone. Okay, because that's how the tickets are going to get emailed to you over there. That's just how the ticket system goes now. So, but go to wiscotrips.com or at sportstalk1051.com to get to reserve your seat on the bus. Catching up on a couple of texts here. Surveyor Sam, good morning, DK. Studs, my niece Ember Ann being born on Father's Day at 3:10. Congrats to my brother and sister-in-law and becoming parents. That's awesome. Congratulations. Also, Euchre calling yesterday's game, and the finish was incredible. I will try. I've got the audio clip. It's just my computer is being a little bit of a dink right now, Surveyor. So I'm hoping to get that for you just past the top of the hour. Duds. Me shaving my face for the first time in years and scarring the ever-living snot of my children. All right. G-Man, DK, way to go, Brewers. Now go on the road and win the series against the Angels. His high, the Brewers. Low is Rory McIlroy yesterday at the U.S. Open. Another texter here, don't have a name. Colin Ray, I think, is our ace this year by default. Also, isn't Garrett Mitchell playing tonight? I haven't heard. I haven't seen that. I looked it up. I would doubt it, but I guess never say never. Just considering the comments from Pat Murphy yesterday about Garrett Mitchell, and this was updated by the Brewers yesterday. They still have it listed as potential late June return, but Pat Murphy said that the Brewers plan to give Mitchell extended time in the minors to rebuild the foundation, and he just got his first rehab play or began rehab an assignment on June 13th. So that's just that was just a couple days ago. And Murphy said he talked to him, he's feeling great. You talk to everybody else, he's rusty. So I mean, considering what Pat Murphy said, I would highly doubt that Garrett Mitchell's playing tonight. But I guess never say never, and we'll see. So. All right. Keep your text coming though. Hit us up 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Coming up next hour, we'll reveal our 64 athlete bracket, the most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time. The most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time. One of our summer projects that we're working on here. And all of the names, every single name has been nominated by you, the listeners out there. I did not, I mean, I threw out some names out there, but I didn't come up with a list. I just wrote down the names that got the most votes and counted them all up, tallied up all the players, all the athletes who got votes, and whoever got the most got selected. So you don't like them, you can complain to the other listeners out there. But we've got the Packers region, we've got the Brewers region, we've got the Badgers region, which is going to be a mixture of football players, basketball players, and hockey and such. And then we've got, I hate to say it is kind of an open region, but it's an open region, but it's got our Bucks players in there, and it's got some other athletes from Wisconsin and such too. So, but we will reveal that coming up in the next hour, including our first matchup of this series. No seeds or anything like that. Okay, no seeds. We're not going to go like 1 seed versus a 16 seed or anything like that. So but it's just been randomized. The matchups have been randomized, thanks to computer programs and technology in this day and age. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of you for who participated in this and threw out some nominations, especially on Friday when we did the Brewers one. That one was, I thought the Packers one was going to get the most input, nominations, people thrown out there. By far, it was the Brewers one on Friday. Everybody throwing out names and such. So big thanks to that. And it went down to the wire. It literally went down to the wire to come up with our final two there. So, but in case if you don't remember Friday's results, they were Jeff Cirillo, Mark Loretta, Corey Hart, Jeremy Burnett, Jim Gantner, Lyle Overbay, Ben Sheets, Dan Plesac, Chris Capuano, Giovanni Gallardo, Teddy Higuera, Mike Caldwell, Gorman Thomas, BJ Surhoff, Jeff Jenkins, and Rob Deere. So that was the 16 Brewers players that got the most nominations from listeners out there. So, but that's coming up next hour. Coming up next hour. So, keep your weekend hangovers coming. All right. What was the best? What was the worst? What was the highs? What was the lows from the weekend? Hit us up. All right. With the text at 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Okay. So shot clock's coming up here in just a couple minutes. Also, we'll hit up, maybe not in too much detail. I mean, do you even care about the NBA Finals? I'll be honest with you, I don't really care about the NBA Finals anymore. Boston's going to win it. I mean, unless we get to like Dallas wins a couple more, and then we're like, okay, here we go now. Maybe an epic comeback. I just no. Same with Stanley Cup. Florida jumped out to a 3-0 lead. Edmonton picked up a win and that, but it's great. Blah 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 blah. But I just unless something happens in these next couple games here, I don't know. U.S. Open, Bryson DeChambeau picking up the win. Rory McIlroy, though, kind of, can we say, collapsing towards the end. I think it's safe to say that. That was painful to kind of watch there towards the end, not making your putts. Got to make, but also give credit to Bryson DeChambeau. That bunker shot on 18, that was, I mean, when he teed off and then where he was at on his second shot on 18, and then it went into the bunker. That bunker shot on 18 was fantastic. You gotta give your credit. You gotta give credit to DeChambeau for that shot. Because I know there's a lot of people saying, well, did DeChambeau win it? Was it Rory that lost it? Yada yada yada. And I know DeChambeau didn't hit a lot of fairways and such in regulation, but man, you hit a clutch shot like that on 18 out of the bunker. That was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome. So, but yeah, probably a high or a low for a lot of people out there. Couple more texts coming in here about the crew here as we finish up the first hour here. Regarding Colin Ray. Colin Ray has definitely been a nice surprise, like a lot of members on the staff, says Greg on the texting line. With Freddie Peralta, I'm definitely a little disappointed with him. I'd like to see a little bit more positive consistency from him, considering a lot is on his shoulders to be that number one starter in this rotation. Another texture here. This is from Adam saying about Freddie Peralta. If I had to assess Freddie Peralta's season thus far, it's been average at best. Like to see him improve quite a bit when it comes to the second half of the season, especially when we get into the postseason, because he probably will be the number one starter. And when he's out there, we got to make sure we get those wins. All right, one in. We got two more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these news updates. Second hour kicking off on this Monday morning of June 17th. Big thanks for tuning in. Wherever, however you may be tuning in from, coming up this hour, we will reveal the entire 64 player slash athlete bracket of our most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time, as nominated by you, the listeners, and as voted on by you, the listeners. All right. So we took all of your nominations. Whoever got the most nominations slash most votes, they were selected here. Luckily, we had no ties. It worked out, so I didn't have to put in a tie-breaking vote or anything like that. But thanks to all of you for the past week who sent over some nominations and such. Added them all up over the weekend, and we've got our bracket. We got the bracket. So we will reveal the entire 64 player slash athlete and their regions. Obviously, you probably already know that the Packers won and the Brewers won, but as we talked a little bit about those. But we'll tell you who was in it in the Badger one, the Bucks players, and some of the open spots on there too. So that's coming up here in, let's say about 10, 15 minutes or so, and we will put out the first matchup a little bit later on today on the Facebook pages out there. So make sure you're following along on Facebook, whether it's Sports Talk or my page over there, and also on Twitter / the X, because that's where you're going to be able to vote. All right, that's where we're going to take the votes because it's easier. It does the math for me. So you're going to have to follow along on there. And every day, every weekday, we will put up a new bracket, a new matchup over there. So I think we're going to do a Brewer one to kick it off, just because, I mean, baseball season, right? So let's talk a little green and gold here, little Packers and such. But really quick, a quick note here about Jordan Love and his potential new contract. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN had this note. He said this on Saturday morning on SportsCenter. But he said that the Packers want a, quote, cleaner situation with Love as they negotiate this new deal. This was from Jeremy Fowler. Quote, the market is what it is. That big number, he's probably going to have to be in that class. General Manager Brian Gutekunst wants to get something done before training camp. Probably a little bit of pressure on him after the way Aaron Rodgers' spit it out, Dan, situation went years ago. They want a cleaner situation for his contract. They want a cleaner situation for his contract. Which, I mean, that's not really news breaking, right? I mean, that's not really like, oh, wow, sort of thing. It's kind of like well, that makes sense. That's kind of a no duh sort of thing, right? But it's kind of also a little bit noteworthy that Aaron Rodgers' situation's kind of coming into play here when it comes to Jordan Love's contract. And, it's cleaner situation in terms of negotiating. It's cleaner situation in terms of, the numbers. Probably not going to be as complicating as what Aaron Rodgers' contract, his last contract, was with the Packers. I mean, that thing was incredibly confusing to kind of figure out. And I love salary cap, NFL salary cap stuff. I love trying to figure that stuff out and the numbers and the charges of every year in that. Like, I really enjoy figuring that out for whatever reason. I sucked at math as a kid and I hate math to this day. But when it comes to NFL salary caps, I'll sit there and eat that stuff up and try to figure that out. So when Goody says cleaner, it's a couple different things here. It's cleaner, I think, in terms of just like, hey, let's have better communication. All right. FaceTime, texting, cell service, whatever the case may be there. Just cleaner communication, cleaner negotiating process, but also cleaner in terms of the contract, as in, all right, this is the guaranteed portion. This is the cap hit per year. Probably not going to have as many, this day, the fifth day of the league year, and this sort of stuff. I mean, there's going to be some of that, but not as confusing as it was for Rodgers contracts. Like, it was weird. It was like the later it got on, the bigger the dead cap hit was, and that's kind of the opposite of what normal NFL contracts go. So that's what probably means, what I would assume means that cleaner, the quote unquote cleaner type of deal there. So again, sure seems like it's trending towards. It's a soft deadline. I don't even know if I want to use the word deadline, but I think that's kind of what the Packers and maybe what Jordan Love's team is kind of using before training camp starts. That's kind of the deadline to get this thing done, so they can get it done and kind of move on. And they've got this cap space available for this year, so they probably want to get this done so you could put some of the cap hit on this year, along with Kenny Clark's contract. Get those two done. Use some of the cap hit or cap space that you have available for this year, and use it. Use those hits on the cap hit this year. It's smart business. It's smart business. So, all right, shall we get things going? Shall we reveal the bracket here? Shall we reveal the bracket? Let's do it. All right. Take a quick break here, and then we'll go through this entire 64 player bracket. Okay, we're just going to go through the players, and then we'll announce the first matchup here. We'll put up the entire bracket up on our website a little bit later on this morning, sportstalk1051.com, and then we'll open up the voting right away on our Facebook pages and Twitter pages and that sort of stuff. So, but let's do it. Again, big thanks to all of you who had the nominations and gave us your picks and all that good stuff. So, let's do it. We'll take that quick break, and then project number one of the summer coming up after these quick words. If you hear a little bit what sounds like a lawnmower in the background, I apologize, but they're mowing the lawn right now. I'm assuming because of the rain and the storms coming. So if it sounds like a lawnmower in the back, that's because there is a lawnmower in the back. But with that, I know I want to give a big thanks to all of you too who have sent over videos the last couple of days about hearing that weird sub vibration, all that sort of stuff. Keep those coming if you do hear it. I know a common theme that we've heard from a couple people too is that it seems like the mysterious hum that we got going on here happens only when we have a guest. That helps the engineers figure out what the heck is going on. So if you notice like today, because we don't have a guest on today, no guest today, but if you still hear it, let me know. All right. If you still hear that annoying hum that apparently is out there on the FM signal, let me know. We're trying to they're trying to narrow it down to what it potentially could be out there. So, but a big thanks because again, I can't hear it. I can't hear it on the air checks and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, I can't listen to the FM if I'm talking here. But seriously, big thanks to all of you for helping out the cause as we try to figure out this whatever the heck is going on. But if you hear it today, especially, let me know because one of the theories out there is it only happening when there's a guest on, another person on, like another mic turned on, and all that good stuff there. So, all right, shall we do it? So, the time has come for project number one of the summer, the most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time, as nominated by you, the listeners, and what will be voted on by you. All right, there you go. So we already got thunderstorm warning out there too. So as I was saying, that a big thanks to again all of you for submitting your nominations, your votes, and all that stuff here. So it's time to unveil the 64 players, athletes that you all picked as part of our most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time. So let's start with the Brewers because we did this Friday. We took the votes right away. We took the votes right away here. So, by the way, C-Bomb says no hum on the app. So big thanks, C-Bomb, for letting me know. No hum on the app there. I know our issue has been the FM, the FM on there. So let's do the Brewers here. We've got this was again Friday was a lot of fun going through this in that final hour here. But Jeff Cirillo, this is your list by the way. Jeff Cirillo, Mark Loretta, Corey Hartz, Jeremy Burnitz, Jim Gantner, Lyle Overbay, Ben Sheets, Dan Plesac, Chris Capuano, Giovanni Gallardo, Teddy Higuera, Mike Caldwell, Gorman Thomas, BJ Surhoff, Jeff Jenkins, and Rob Deere. So that is your 16 for the most underrated Brewers of all time. That is your top 16 for the most underrated Brewers of all time, nominated by you, the listeners. All right, as nominated by you, the listeners. That's the Brewers region here. I gotta sneeze here for a second. It's coming up here, so if you hear a pause, that's because why. All right, there we go. Now let's do the Packers region again, as nominated by you and as what will be voted on by you. We've got Chuck Cecil, Paul Kaufman, Amon Green, Frank Winters, Aaron Campman, Nick Collins, Al Harris, William Henderson, George Kuntz, Tremont Williams, Lynn Dickey, Tim Harris, John Brockington, Brian Williams, Ezra Johnson, and Chad Clifton. Those are your 16 Brewers players, or excuse me, Packers players in our Packers region. In the Badgers region, we got John Stucco, Darrell Bevel, Mike Eccles, Pete Money, Michael Flowers, Cameron Taylor, Mike Wilkinson, Trayvon Hughes, Joe Pavelski, Jolene Anderson, Kirk Penny, Jamar Fletcher, Luke Swan, Al Toon, Brooks Bollinger, and Scott Tolzien. That is your Badger region. Now for the Bucks/Open region. Tim Thomas, Larry Sanders, Michael Redd, Sam Cassell, Mo Williams, Steve Stricker, Andy North, Eric Hayden, Dan Jensen, Terry Porter, Frank Parker, Connie Carpenter, Vin Baker, Terry Cummings, Brandon Jennings, and Alvin Cranesling, excuse me. So that is your top 64. You don't like them? If you don't like them, well, that's who got the most nominations from the listeners out there. The most underrated Wisconsin sports athletes of all time. So of those regions, let's kind of do a little Final Four, if you will. Kind of do a little bit of a Final Four issue out here. Or not issue. Final Four pick here. If you had to pick a player from every region, who would it be? So if we're like, in March when the brackets come out, who would be your Final Four picks if we kind of did a little prediction here? So in that Packers region, in that Brewers region, in that Badgers region, and then let's call it the Bucks/Open region. Who would be your Final Four picks? And it's going to be, we're going to throw out the first matchups here. I'll announce the first Brewers matchup coming up a little bit later on. But of the names that we just, and there's not going to be any seeds. They're randomly going to be, assigned via the computer and such. We already got that all set up and such. So we're not going to have a 1 versus 16 or anything like that, because we don't need to, get into a bickering thing about, well, so-and-so shouldn't be a 2 seed. They should actually be a 9 seed, whatever. We're just no seeds on this thing. But of all the names, any of them kind of stand out to you saying, oh, yeah, that's going to be the dude that comes through the Packers region. That's going to be the dude that comes out of the Badgers, Brewers, et cetera, et cetera. I think for me, when I look at it, my Final Four predictions, if I'm looking at it from Brewer side, I think Jeff Jenkins is going to get the most votes. And this is kind of where we have to go about it. Like, I think Jeff Jenkins is probably going to get the most votes. And if I had to go with another one on there, maybe Gorman Thomas on there. But I think Jeff Jenkins is going to get the most vote. He was kind of one of our last ones. But I honestly think that a lot of, once they see his name out there, it's either him. Oh, no. Now, see, I'm changing. I don't know if it'll be Jenkins. I think it's actually going to be Jim Gantner, Gorman Thomas, or Ben Sheets. But if I had to pick one, maybe I'll go Gantner as getting the most votes. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Gantner on there. For the Packer one, now this one's a little bit hard. I got to keep my homer picks off this thing and try to. This is where I'm trying to gauge where maybe the most votes will go. And when it comes to this Packers list here, I think I might go. I think it's going to be Tim Harris or Lynn Dickey, to be honest. But I think or Chuck Cecil. I think it'll be between Tim Harris and Chuck Cecil. And I think vote wise, Tim Harris and Chuck Cecil, I think if they end up facing each other to get through the championship, I think that could be a spicy matchup in terms of the votes. Because I'm just going based off my memory from when we did the Packers one almost a week ago. I believe, don't quote me, but I believe Chuck Cecil and Tim Harris were two of the most popular nominated players from all of you. So I think Chuck Cecil might edge him out, though. I think he might edge him out. So I'll go Chuck Cecil for the Packer one. I'll go Gantner for the Brewer one. Now it gets a little tough here. For the Badger one here is tough. Pavelski is on here, but will they vote? Will voters go for him because of his success in the NHL when really we're looking at what they did during their Badger careers? That's the thing. Same for the Brewers and same for the Packers. We're looking at what they did during their careers with the Badgers, with the Bucks, that sort of thing. So, but when I look at this, will Pavelski get a lot of picks because of what? That's what I can't kind of forecast here. So, boy, the Badger one's really tough for me. I might go Pavelski though, just because I think he's got maybe a little bit more name recognition from just Badger fans out there. Then you got the Bucks in the open one here. Now, I think Terry Porter is a sneaky good pick because I remember as a kid, collecting cards, and I always just thought it was cool that Terry Porter got drafted in the first round of the NBA draft, and he played for Stevens Point. I thought that was so cool as a kid. I could picture the exact Terry Porter card. I can picture how it looked. And I remember always looking on the back because that was one of the things when I was collecting cards, I would memorize certain things. Where they went to college, kind of where they were drafted. Height was a big one for me. I have no idea why, but height was one of them. But I just remember always looking at that Terry Porter card, and I had a few of them, but there was one in particular, and it always said UW Stevens Point on the back. And he was a first-round pick in 1985, 24th overall. I think, and born in Milwaukee, played a little bit for the Bucks there, but I think that's a sneaky one. I don't think he's going to get through it, but I think that's a sneaky one because of you go back and he played for Point and a first rounder there. Obviously, he's got named. He had a pretty darn solid career in the NBA. Majority part of it was with the Portland Trail Blazers. When the Blazers were over there, he got his number retired by the Blazers. A couple times was an NBA All-Star and such. So I think Terry Porter's kind of a sneaky one there. Bucks fans might remember him more as being a coach over there and such. But when I look at it, I think Eric Heiden's going to be a very popular one, Olympic guy. Steve Stricker, I think, is going to be a popular one over there. I don't think a Bucks player is going to come through this, to be honest with you. I don't think a Bucks player might come through it. So I think it's going to be either Eric or Steve if I had to make my final four picks, and I might go Eric. I think I'm gonna predict Eric. So my final four predictions, I'm gonna go with Gantner. I'm gonna go with Chuck Cecil. I'll go with uh, Eric for the open one, and then Pavelski for the Badger one, just because I think he's got a little bit more name recognition on there. What are your predictions? All right, let's kind of have a little fun with this. Let's have a little fun with this bracket pick here. All right, give me your final fours. I'll put up the entire bracket a little bit later on here, a little bit later on this morning. It'll be up on our website. I'll put it up on the Facebook pages, Twitter pages, and all that good stuff. But if you got any picks, or if you want to pick your champion based off of the 64 athletes and players we put out there, who do you think that champion is going to be? All right, who do you think that champion is going to be? Make your prediction. See if you get it right. You know what? I'll tell you what. If you predict the champion correctly, I'll throw a prize in. All right, I'll throw a prize in this thing. So just hit me up with a text with your picks. Okay. All right. Tell you what, let's take a really quick break here. We'll finish up the second hour here. Got a few texts to catch up on. We'll get back to some more Brewers chat as well, with the Brewers now getting set to take on the Los Angeles Angels with the Angels. A little West Coast trip, a little Cali trip coming up here, starting tonight. So we'll start to preview that as well. But we'll take a quick break, and we'll finish up this second hour after these quick words. A lot of votes coming in already, and I'll tell you right now, the leading vote getter so far is Chuck Cecil, which doesn't surprise me too much at this point in time. But Chuck Cecil is kind of the leading vote getter so far, according to our texters who have chimed in to uh, to win this bracket challenge. To win this bracket challenge. So, got any other ones? Or if you want to do kind of a final four here, I'm working on the bracket right now, making an online one here so you guys can all look at it because we've got it's all set, randomized by the computer and such. So I'm just kind of putting it into a typical bracket form here. So and then we'll post it up on the website and all the Facebook pages out there so you guys can check it out and such. But coming up next hour, we will announce what the first matchup is going to be, and I think, yeah, we're going to go with the Brewer one to open up with the opening round matchup. So make sure again you're following along on Facebook and Twitter, both the Sports Talk pages and mine. I'm going to be posting it up on mine, and then we'll just share it up on the other accounts over there too. So, but make sure you're following that way. You can vote on there and spread the word too. All right, share it on your Facebook pages. Share it on your Twitter accounts and such. Spread the word. More votes, the better with this thing. Okay, so if you can go ahead and do that, please please do so. And that way, I mean, the more votes we get, the better the chances for some of these players, or maybe for your player or for your athlete to move on. So let's catch up on a couple of texts here. C-Bomb had said a little bit earlier, a lot of young talent talking about the Brewers. A lot of young talent, and collectively, this Brewers team is an excellent group. Do you see them making a move before the trade deadline? And what is your predicted move if they make any? Who are they trading away? Well, I think the big one is starting pitching. I got to imagine that they're probably going to um, inquire about a starter. My question has always been, if they go after that starter, do they want a starter that they have control over for a couple of years, like whether it's arbitration or maybe it's a pitcher that's already locked up under contract, but it's a little bit of a cheaper deal, so they've got some control over them? Or do they want a veteran who's entering his final year? This is his final year. Prorated salary, got a little bit of experience there, but then they're not attached to that pitcher for next year, because I think the one thing that they're seeing so far this year is they've got some talent, right? They've got some young talent in that pitching department. So maybe they don't want to be, I hate to say this phrase, but it's maybe a little dramatic, handcuffed to a veteran when they want to give maybe some opportunities to their younger guys, coming in, really for next year. I'm talking about the Robert Gassers, and maybe we'll see a little bit more here from Carlos Rodriguez. Aaron Ashby hopefully can get back into the swing of things here too. So that to me is, I think they're going to target pitching depth. Maybe it's a long relief, but if I'm looking at a starter, I think to me the main question is going to be, and the other part is too, is like if it's a veteran who's on his final year, because I don't think there is that CC Sabathia pitcher out there. But if it is a veteran on his final year, I feel like it might be a little bit cheaper in terms of prospects, given up. So if that's the case, is that the better way to go about it? And in terms of who they give up, I think, you look at what's a position of strength right now, or what's a position of depth right now for this Brewers team, and it's outfielders. You got Garrett Mitchell coming back fairly soon here, it sounds like. Latest update from the Brewers, at least from Brewers.com, was end of June. Maybe that gets moved up here a little bit. Pat Murphy did say the other day, though, that a little rusty. So do you move on from a guy like him, or is Joey Weaver the guy, or is Sal Frelick a guy that they trade from? I look at those three because I think Blake Perkins is a nice fourth outfielder on this team, defensive outfielder out there, late game subs. You put him out there for some defensive purposes. He's got the speed. He's got the range. He's displayed that so many times this year. You're not trading Christian Yelich. You're not trading Jackson Chourio. So if you're going to move on from one of these guys from this Brewers team, it's either got to be Garrett Mitchell, it's got to be Joey Weimer, or Sal Frelick. I don't think it'll be Sal Frelick because he's getting by far a majority of the playing time. So I look at, is it Joey Weimer or Garrett Mitchell? Garrett Mitchell's kind of a, we haven't seen him, and now he's making some rehab starts. But, team could like the young potential from him over there. So I think it's Garrett or Joey Weimer at this point that could be a potential piece in a trade that Brewers maybe want to target an arm, target a starting arm. Those talks are going to get a little bit louder as we get closer to the trade deadline, which is the end of next month. Offensively, would you like to see the Brewers? I mean, do you think there's a big hole offensively that, let me throw it back to all of you out there. Do you think there's a big hole offensively you would like to see the Brewers be better at or make a big improvement from? I mean, Yelich is doing a fantastic job. We talked about center field. Maybe it is center field for you. Maybe you think that is Garrett Mitchell. Maybe you want, Blake Perkins is a great defensive guy, but maybe you want some consistency from the offensive side of things. And maybe that is Garrett Mitchell. I think they're still high on him, and I don't know if they want to necessarily get rid of him. So I think maybe it's Joey Weaver. That could be the odd man out in a trade. Right field, you got Jackson Chourio and Sal Frelick kind of splitting time over there. I ain't going to trade Jackson Chourio. Joey Ortiz having a solid season. Willie Adames, solid season. Bryce Terang, solid season. Rhys Hoskins over there at first. William Contreras at catcher. Gary Sanchez backup. So offensively, there's not really a ton of potential open spots where maybe they make a trade to get some more improvement. I mean, you're maybe looking at center field or right center. Yeah, but again, they may think that's Garrett Mitchell potentially. So I think if it offensively, that might be the only one. Everywhere else, I'm like, I have a hard time saying I don't want that guy in the lineup. You know what I mean? So I think it's all pitching. Long way to answer your question there, C-Bomb, but I think it's all pitching at this point in time for what type of moves for the Brewers to make by the trade deadline. And if I'm looking at, who could be a piece of a trade, I'm looking at, okay, what's a position that they got some depth at right now? Maybe it's Joey Weimer. So I feel like they want to see more from Garrett Mitchell. I feel like they are high on Garrett Mitchell and feel like they believe that he could be a guy that could help maybe get some more consistency on the offensive side of things. So I think it might be Joey Weimer. A couple other texts coming through here. This is about Freddie Peralta. This is from Eric. Eric saying he's a little bit disappointed in Freddie Peralta's performance so far this season. Expected bigger things from him, especially coming in as the new number one guy. Maybe it's just because I put too much pressure on him because he is the new number one guy. But I haven't been wowed by Freddie Peralta thus far this season. When you look at Freddie Peralta's numbers, if we break it down by month, opening day was March. And he went out there and he had a solid game against the Mets. 6 innings, 1 hit. That was the home run. 1 earned run, struck out 8. If we look at April, he went 2-0 with a 3.58 ERA. May 0-3, 4.08 ERA. So far in June, he's 1-1 with a 7.90 ERA. Freddie Peralta overall this year is 4-4 with a 4.38 ERA. I'm a little disappointed too. If I'm being honest, I'm a little disappointed. I don't think Freddie Peralta is necessarily an ace. He's not a Corbin Burns, and maybe we put a lot of high expectations on him because of what we've seen the last couple of years with Corbin and even Brandon Woodruff on there, and seeing what Corbin's doing here this year. But is he kind of like, I think Brandon mentioned this on Friday. Is Freddie Peralta kind of like maybe Giovanni Gallardo, where Giovanni Gallardo was viewed as an ace or the number one starter, but was he really maybe a number one starter? Did he have number one starter ability? Do we place too much emphasis on a number one starter? I mean, I think when it really comes into play is postseason. When you get into those, playoff series where, you sometimes you don't have tomorrow, to quote Apollo Creed from Rocky 3. There is no tomorrow. Sometimes you don't have a tomorrow. And you need that pitcher to go in there and have some pretty darn, fantastic games. How many times in a row? So while it may not be the biggest factor, whether you got a number one starter or such in the regular season, I think it really comes into play when it comes to the postseason, when you set your starting rotations and such. So yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm maybe a little bit down on Freddie Peralta, a little disappointed and such. And I know he's coming off of career worst, where he's allowed the most hits in his career, 10, which kind of surprised me. It was like, oh, because he's been around for a few years, and it's the first time he's allowed double-digit hits. Another texter here saying, I'm down on Freddie Peralta, but definitely higher on Colin Ray than I thought I would be so far this season. He has taken another step, it seems like, this year, and has been just kind of a solid starter with this rotation. I would agree with that. 6-2 with a 3.29 ERA so far for Colin Ray this year. Last year came on the scene and we didn't know who the heck he was. Comes up, a lot of it was due because of injuries. So he got thrown in there and it was like, okay, he's eating up some innings. He's going out there, doing his thing. Gets part of the rotation this year. And I think we still open up this year with not really sure what to expect from Colin Ray. But I think if you'd have told me we're here in the middle of June and Colin Ray is sitting there at a 6-2 record with a 3.29 ERA, I would take that any day of the week. Any day of the week. And twice on Sunday. If you were to tell me Colin Ray would be 6-2 with a 3.29 ERA middle of June here, I would take that all day. He's not an ace, but if that's the type of production I'm going to get from him as, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the case may be, I'll take that. I'll take that for sure. A couple more texts to come here. I agree with you. I think outfielder is going to be a guy that's going to be traded. Probably Joey Weimer, like you said. I want to see Garrett Mitchell before the Brewers decide what to do with him. We saw some glimpses of him the year prior. Haven't been able to see him this year. I want to see if there's some potentially untapped offensive potential from him. That's from Adam on our texting line. I would agree. I think the Brewers, too, they kind of want to see what they've got with Garrett Mitchell. I think they're still incredibly high on Garrett Mitchell. I think the biggest thing is between Mitchell and Perkins is who's going to be the more consistent offensive threat at the plate. And we've seen a ton of Blake Perkins this year. I think Blake Perkins is a very good, solid fourth outfielder, a bench guy that you could come in, defensive purposes and such. But what Garrett Mitchell can really potentially add to this is maybe another offensive element to this lineup. That's how I view it. How much time do we have for some more text? Yeah, we can do a couple more texts here. This one is from Matthew. It looks like on our texting line here. Matthew is saying with Freddie Peralta, definitely disappointed so far in Freddie Peralta this year, but got to give some credit to Colin Ray and the other starters for stepping up. How about Bryce Wilson? Yeah, we mentioned Bryce Wilson in the first hour. Thank you for the text. We mentioned him in the first hour. You know, a guy again had to adjust his role, right? Had to adjust his role. Now he's a starter, and he's coming off of a fantastic start on Saturday against the Reds there. Got to give credit to these other starters who have stepped up and filled a hole that has been, it seems like it's been popping up every few days, every week, every couple weeks with another injury to a pitcher. So, yeah, Bryce Wilson, definitely one of those guys. Another texter here, don't have a name, can't give any credit, but said, if you had to pick one pitcher to potentially go to the All-Star game, who would it be? Funny because we actually mentioned that in the first hour. I'd go with Hudson. I mean, Hudson so far this year has been super fantastic. He's got 10 holds, he's 4-0, and he's got a sub 1 ERA. He's under 1 for his ERA, and he has been put into some tight situations, difficult situations. So I got to give the nod to him. And when you factor in, with the bullpen that has missed Devin Williams and Hudson goes out there and throws at least an inning, couple innings. I mean, he can give you a couple frames out there. He has been really impressive. All right. 2 in. We got one more to go here. Let's do some weekend hangovers, all right? What was the best? What was the worst? What was the highs? What was the lows? All that good stuff. It was Father's Day weekend. Anybody got any highs from Father's Day? All right. Hit me up with a text. We'll be back after these news updates. Final hour kicking off on this Monday morning. Big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in and participating in the program too. No, it might be a little weather aware out there too, so be careful out there if you're driving, depending on where you're listening to us from. We're going to talk some more Brewers, take a look at this series with the Angels that starts tonight. It's going to be a late series, though, because the Brewers will be on the West Coast taking on the Angels for a 3-game series coming up. And then they've got 4 games against the Padres before returning home a week from today, where they will take on the Texas Rangers. Right now, the Brewers, though, sitting 6.5 games up on the Cardinals, who are now at 500. They're 35-35 on the season. And they're the only team besides the Brewers that have at least a 500 or higher record. But a new team now is dead last in the division, and that's the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs now 8.5 games back from the Brewers. The rest, you got Cincinnati, who's 8 games back. Pittsburgh is also 8 games back. So Brewers fans got to be probably smiling at that. Cubs fans probably throwing stuff against the wall right now. But we'll talk a little bit more about this series, start to preview it. Carlos Rodriguez is going to get the starts for the Crew. He's going to get another start here. Another one of those younger guys getting some playing time this year due to injuries and such, getting another opportunity after making his debut last week. So got, again, a little unfamiliar matchups here with NL and AL and such. But we'll kind of take a look at who the Brewers will be going up against tonight here in just a skosh. We've got the weekend hangover. What were your highs? What were your lows? Drew from Eau Claire got married on Friday, and we took a series win from a division rival. It was a great weekend. Well, congratulations, Drew. That's awesome. We got a couple of good ones there. We got Drew from Eau Claire getting married. Surveyor Sam becoming an uncle. I don't know if it was first time or again, but Surveyor Sam chimed in a little bit earlier saying that got a new niece in the family, born on Father's Day, 3:10 a.m. So a couple of good highlights over there from the weekend hangover. If you had a good Father's Day, you can let us know. Or if you had a bad one too, you can let us know. That might be the low from your weekend hangover here. My weekend hangover, the highs and the lows, or the best and the worst from the weekend. I'm going to start it off with the worst. It's got to be Rory McIlroy for me. I mean, boy, I kind of feel for the guy. I mean, you had the lead, then you missed some close putts, and then you missed that 3-footer at the end there, and cost you at least a playoff. But Rory finishing in second place at the U.S. Open yesterday, just, boy. And there's been a couple times throughout his career, too, where it just comes down to stretch and I hate to say choke, but just not able to close the deal at times there. So low, I got to go Rory. High, I'm going to go DeChambeau. I mean, the guy, he struggled to find the fairway from his drives. We know the guy could tattoo it as far as he wants to go here. And he struggled to find some fairways and such, and then going into that final hole, I mean, his drive goes left. He's in a bad situation. He's got to kind of punch it out there. Punches it out into the bunker. And now he's got that one shot lead. You're like, okay, maybe he gets bogey and forces a playoff with Rory, who's watching. He's a clubhouse leader. Cameras are watching Rory watch DeChambeau. What does DeChambeau do? He just nails an amazing bunker shot to give him a chance to save par with a short putt, and he did it. So I got to give DeChambeau. That was a heck of a bunker shot there. That's a high from the weekend for me. Got to give him that. So those are my highs. Those are my lows from the weekend. Rest of you, let me know what you got. Okay, hit me up with a text or tweet or Facebook message on there. Your highs and your lows from the weekend. What else do we got here? A couple texts. Okay, we'll get back to some Brewers chats coming up here in just a skosh and such. So, um, yeah, we're big topic has been pitching so far this morning with the Brewers in terms of Freddie Peralta and Colin Ray. So we got a couple more thoughts on that. I'll get to that here in a little bit. But taking a look at tonight's matchup with the Brewers and the Angels. Again, it's going to be a late game. If you're looking at your schedules, you probably see like an 8:38 time on there. Let's round it up and just call it 8:40, shall we? But you could catch that game on the radio dials tonight at 105.1 FM and 790 AM. It's going to be some late ones throughout this week here because of this West Coast trip for the crew. But with the Angels tonight, kind of an uncommon opponent here. And when you look at the pitching matchups, you don't have a ton of experience. Practically none between these two ball clubs, which on one side makes sense. The Brewers, they're going to be starting Rodriguez, who just made his debut last week. And then on the flip side, you got Jose Soriano for the Angels. Let's take a look at Soriano from the Angels here. Youngster, 25, 4-5 so far this year with a 3.48 ERA. He's appeared in 14 games, and he has started 12 of those games. But he's coming off of a couple of really nice performances, actually a couple of wins here too. So he has started off the month of June on a really good note. Go back to the 5th against the Padres, where he picked up a win. He went 6 innings, 1 earned run, and then coming off of his latest appearance against the Diamondbacks, he went 8 innings, 2 earned runs. So 2-0, 1.93 ERA in 2 starts this month. If we go back to May, a little bit more of a bigger sample size here. He was 2-1 with a 3.28 ERA. And he's improved since his starts in April. I mean, April, he struggled a little bit outside of a start against the Reds back on the 21st. But in the month of April, Soriano went 0-4 with a 5.49 ERA. But bouncing back nicely with with those May numbers, and he's off to a really good start so far in June. And really, when you look at some of the experience out there, you got Sanchez, who's got it looks like one career at bat. It looked like it was a walk against Soriano there. But the Brewers giving another start to Carlos Rodriguez, who picked up a loss in his first career start against the Toronto Blue Jays last week back on the 11th, where he went 3 2/3, gave up 2 earned runs on 7 hits, though. Got out of some jams there, put himself in some tight situations in his first start there. So how do you build upon that? How do you come back from that? How you got that experience, you got your first start under your belt. What are you going to learn from that? I think the Brewers now, they're going to be looking like, okay, we saw some nice things. Pat Murphy, after that game last week, had some nice things to say. They were hoping that he would at least go 6 innings. That didn't happen. But Pat Murphy did say that there were some nice things to take away. Thought he threw the ball well and such. But how do you now? I think the biggest improvement from him is going to have to be, okay, how do you limit the hits? How do you limit the mistakes? You know, you looked like he was throwing a little high. If you go back to that game on the 11th, location, command, that sort of thing. How do you fix that? How do you get better from that first start? That's what the Brewers are going to look at because, you know, if Rodriguez goes out there and he pitches, let's say he pitches a gem tonight. Let's say he pitches a really good game tonight. He's probably going to get another start. He's probably going to get another opportunity. So how do you improve from that first start? Maybe the butterflies. I mean, you're probably still going to have some butterflies, but maybe they're not rumbling around as much as they would be in your first career start. But I think the biggest thing here is hopefully we see a little bit more improvement on the location and the command of his pitches. And when we saw some of those pitches getting dialed up in the mid-90s and such, guy's got some heat. He's got some power. Just has to slow down or not slow down, but improve on the location and the command a little bit there. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Carlos Rodriguez can do in his second career start. He's got an opportunity. He's got an opportunity here to make the case for another turn through the rotation. And the Brewers need him too. We've talked about pitching all morning. It's been a big topic this morning between Freddie Peralta and Colin Ray. Bryce Wilson's coming off of a nice game. I know he didn't get credited for the start, but he got the win. Where are these other guys going to step up and kind of fill out the rest of this rotation here? We're talking about trades, talking about, who are they going to acquire at the trade deadline? A lot of people feel like, a lot of Brewers fans want to see some more trades or some more pitchers a part of these trade packages. This is an opportunity for Carlos Rodriguez to go out there and say, hey, I can do this. Take advantage of this opportunity, young man. Go out there, get the job done. Let's have a night. Let's have a performance. All right? Put your team in a position to win this game. When we look at the Angels overall this year, obviously, no more Ohtani over there, right? We know that. Ron Washington's over there, but got a little bit of a younger team here. And the Angels right now, they're coming off of a series win against the Giants this past weekend. 2 out of 3. Before that, they lost a series against the Diamondbacks, lost a series against the Astros, but they swept the Padres 3 games, June 3rd through the 5th. And so far, the Angels this year, when you look at that AL West, when we look at the standings in that AL West here, it's kind of been a weird division, if you will, because Houston, I think, has been one of those teams that has been really kind of disappointing. Really hasn't hit their mark, or really hasn't hit the expectations I think a lot of people had. They're 6 games under 500. Texas, defending champs, they're 5 games under 500. And you got the Seattle Mariners, who are in first place by 8.5 games, 43-31. Seattle's in first place right now by 8.5 games over the Texas Rangers. And then you got the Angels, who are 4th in their division. They're just 9-28 against teams with a record of 500 or better. With a record of 500 or better. This is another opportunity for the Brewers. We talked about it last week, or maybe it was a week and a half ago. When you look at the portion of the schedule coming up here for the Brewers, this is an opportunity for the Brewers to rack up some wins and maybe potentially increase their lead in the division. Don't apologize for who you're playing against on your schedule. You just got to play the teams that you're scheduled against. And this is an opportunity on this West Coast trip here for the Brewers to rack up more wins. Win the series against the Angels. You got 4 games against the Padres, who are currently 1 game under 500. And then you get back and you face another AL West team, the Texas Rangers, at home. And then you finish off the month of June against the Cubs, who are Cubs are not playing well right now. They're not playing well right now. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. You look at these division races in Major League Baseball right now, though, and you look at some of the leads, these division leads. It's kind of interesting looking at this. So, I mean, the AL East, no big surprise. You got a couple teams there kind of duking it out right now. The Yankees, 50 wins. Okay, the Yankees are 50-24, the first team to 50 wins this year. Baltimore is just 1.5 back from them, though. We've got Yankees and Baltimore facing each other in a series right now. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Baltimore's right now 8-2 in their last 10. This is a heck of an opportunity for the Orioles to maybe take the division lead or make things even tighter. But then you look at some of the other division races so far as we are inching closer and closer to the halfway mark, nothing is as close as it is to the AL East. The closest division race outside of the American League East is the AL Central. The Cleveland Guardians, 44-25. Kansas City Royals are 5 games behind them, 41-32. And then you got the Twins, who are 5.5 games back, 40-32. This AL Central, that for the last few years, has kind of been the division that it felt like nobody wanted to win. And teams would Twins would get through it and such. But going into this year, it was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, who is this going to be another kind of typical AL Central division that we've seen from the last couple of years where, you're not going to really have a dominant team coming here? I think the AL Central has been a fun division this year, outside the White Sox, who are just awful. I mean, Detroit's 34-37. They're making progress. It's not going to be this year, but potentially, in the next couple of years here. The AL Central race has probably been one of the biggest surprises this year. Every other division race, the AL West, we talked about it. Seattle's up 8.5. The NL East, Phillies are up 8 against the Braves. Milwaukee, 6.5 up against the Cardinals. The NL West, the Dodgers are up 8 over the Padres, 8.5 over the Diamondbacks and the Giants. It's, outside that AL East, you got teams there who are up in their divisions by a few games. Brewers wise, just some nuggets here I was kind of taking a look at. So their away record, 20-17. They've been lights out at home, 22-12 thus far. They're 15-12 against teams with a record of 500 or better. There are only 4. Where are we at here? 5 other teams, 6 other teams, excuse me, that have winning records against teams with a 500 or better winning percentage. Yankees, 18-12. Baltimore, 22-12. Cleveland, 15-8. Nobody in the AL West. Philly is 10-8. Mentioned the Brewers as 15-12. And then 2 in the NL West. Dodgers, who are 12-4. And the Padres, who are 14-13. Dodgers is going to be interesting now to see what the next couple weeks is going to look like for this team. You got Mookie Betts, who is going to be out for a while. Fractured his left hand after being hit. Yamamoto, their pitcher, placed on the injured list with a rotator cuff issue. So the Dodgers now are dealing with a couple of injuries here. Will that affect things a whole lot in the National League, in the NL West? I mean, the Dodgers are loaded, right? I mean, they got dudes all across that lineup that can step up and fill the gaps there. But could you, right now, they're saying the Mookie Betts injury, he'll be out for a while, but it's not season ender. But that's definitely a big loss. But the thing is, with the Dodgers, you know what? They got other dudes that can step up, and you know what's probably going to happen too? I hate to say this, they're probably going to make moves before the trade deadline and add more pieces that way. It's just going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Happens every year, for crying out loud. All right, let's take a quick break here as we approach the bottom of the hour in the final hour of the program. Heard the sirens going off again out there too. I'm going to have to take a look out the window and see what it looks like out there. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back after these few words. Bottom of the hour here. Final hour here. Big thing. A lot of comments, texts coming in here. Timmy saying Dodgers make a pitch for Willie Adames. I hope not. I hope not. I don't want Willie Adames to go to the Dodgers, especially with the crew right now in the position that they're in. I don't want that to happen. So I know we talked a little bit about that. Was that Thursday? That Thursday when intern threw out that receiver defer. I think out there. Yeah, majority of you saying no, keep. It sounded like a lot of you too wanted to keep Willie Adames on the roster, like as in re-sign the guy, which kind of a different change in tune from maybe the last couple of years. So a couple more texts to get to here regarding Brewers pitch. I definitely think the biggest need for the Brewers by the trade deadline is starting pitching. This is from Travis. Travis saying, I don't know if it'll be a guy that has a lot of control. I think that's supposed to say a lot of control, or if it'll be just kind of a rental player. But do you think the Brewers should go all in this year and push some chips into the middle of the table? That's kind of the question at hand, isn't it? Like, how much do the Brewers, quote unquote, go for it this year? A little bit different from the last couple of years where they've had the pitching, they've had the starting pitching, but they haven't had offense. And this year, it's kind of like tables have turned a little bit here. They've turned a bit, right? So, again, when you look at potential available players, pitchers out there, I mean, right now you don't have the CC Sabathias or those type of starters out there. So I mean, if anything, the Brewers, I mean, probably gonna. Let me see if I can find some names out here. Oh yeah, this is from the Athletic that was just posted a few days ago. 5 trades I'd like to see before Major League Baseball trade deadline. Of course, the Dodgers, they've got they acquire Luis Robert Jr., Garrett Crochet, and Michael Kopech from the White Sox. Of course, the Dodgers would make a deal like that. Twins, here you go, Twins. This is from the Athletic. Twins acquire Pete Alonso. What do you think about that one, Twins fans? Mariners acquiring a third baseman. Cardinals acquiring Eric Fetty from the White Sox. No Brewers mentions on here for the top 5, though. So that was posted just a few hours ago. That sort of stuff. So yeah, it seems like Eric Fetty is a big name is a name that's being mentioned mostly out there. And then you've got, with the I want to say Oriole. Baltimore Orioles, they're potentially looking at starting pitching with some injuries that they've had over there. They're obviously a team that's going for it this year with Corbin Burns. Who knows if they're going to be able to re-sign him and pay him to all that money that he's going to be getting next offseason. So you got a team like Baltimore that's going to be, I got to imagine, a big player by the trade deadline to try to go for it this year. We're still kind of waiting to see, though, some of these bubble teams, they may not be in that position to say, hey, we're going to be sellers yet this year. I was reading a little bit from MLB.com. This was from a couple days ago. Said, while the next month could go a long way towards determining the trade deadline direction for the Red Sox and the Rays, the belief in the industry is that the two ball clubs may be heading for deadline sales, according to John Heyman from the New York Post. Although the Red Sox and the Rays are both in the thick of an American League wildcard race, Fangraphs gave them just a 17.8% and a 16.2% chance of reaching the playoffs. Baltimore and Kansas City are well ahead of the pack in the AL wildcard standings, putting Boston and Tampa among the many clubs vying for that third spot, along with the Twins, Tigers, Rangers, Blue Jays, and Astros. If the Red Sox and Rays do end up selling, they could provide a boost to the summer starting pitching market. So potentially a couple of teams over there. Again, we're just kind of in a wait and see mode. We're not going to have a great idea of who could potentially be out there for a starting pitcher market. But back to the Adames thing, this was from a couple days ago too, from Ken Rosenthal. The Dodgers are likely to seek a shortstop so that they can move Mookie Betts back to second base where he's a better defender. Well, now Mookie Betts is hurt. So, of course, you're probably going to hear, like Timmy said, Willie Adames' name be mentioned. Willie Adames' name was mentioned last year, this past offseason, as a potential target. But I think with the Brewers, with where they're at, I don't see that happening. And yeah, that was intern's question on Thursday. If the Brewers, for some reason, traded Willie Adames, what would be met with more criticism, scrutiny? That trade, or maybe we're going back to Josh Hader with that trade. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. This is from, what do you got to say here, John? John saying, where can I find the brackets for the Wisconsin underrated players? Oh, that'll be up on our Facebook pages later this morning, shortly after we're done on air here. That'll be up there. I'm just putting the final touches on here. We will have the first matchup on our Facebook and Twitter pages, so make sure you're following along there. That's where we're going to have the votes. It's just easier, so I don't have to sit there and manually count everything out there. But make sure you're following along, facebook.com/Kasper Sports, that's Kasper with a K, or the Sports Talk page. Same with Twitter /X at DANKASPR at Sports Talk 1051. We'll put the votes out there. But really quick, the 64 underrated Wisconsin athletes, all nominated by you. We took the athletes that had multiple nominations. We're not seeding them or anything like that. And luckily we didn't have any ties, so I didn't have to put a tie-breaking vote in there or anything like that. I don't know how that worked out, but it worked out perfectly. So we have 16 Brewers, we have 16 Badgers, we have 16 Packers, and we have 16 Bucks/Open. Those are the regions. Okay. For the Brewers region, which our first matchup is going to come from the Brewers region today. Jeff Cirillo, Rob Deere, Corey Hart, Mark Loretta, Gorman Thomas, Giovanni Gallardo, Jeremy Burnitz, BJ Surhoff, Teddy Higuera, Jim Gantner, Mike Caldwell, Lyle Overbay, Ben Sheets, Jeff Jenkins, Dan Plesac, Chris Capiano. That's the Brewers region. The Badgers region, Stucco. We got Bevel, Mike Eccles, Pete Monty, Michael Flowers, Cameron Taylor, Mike Wilkinson. Man, giving a little shout out to the early 2000s basketball teams there. Trayvon Hughes, Joe Pavelski, Jolene Anderson, Kirk Penny, Jamar Fletcher, Luke Swan, Al Toon, Brooks Bollinger, Scott Tolzien. The Bucks/Open, we got Tim Thomas, Larry Sanders, Michael Redd, Sam Cassell, Mo Williams, Terry Cummings, Vin Baker, Brandon Jennings, Steve Stricker, Andy North, Eric Hayden, Dan Jensen. We got Terry Porter, Frank Parker, Connie Carpenter, and Alvin Kranzlin. And then for the Packers one, I got to bring it up here. This was our first region that was to be finalized here, but we had. Let me bring it up. Where did it go here? Computer load up. Where's my bracket here? All right, for the Packers, we had Chuck Cecil, Paul Kaufman, Amon Green, Frank Winters, Aaron Campman, Nick Collins, Al Harris, William Henderson, George Kuntz, Tremont Williams, Lynn Dickey, Tim Harris, John Brockington, Brian Williams, Ezra Johnson, and Chad Clifton. So to answer your question, long way of answering that, the bracket will be up on the social media pages, and we'll put it up on our website, but voting will be done on the social media pages. So, yeah. A couple more texts to get to here before we take our final break and do some Picks and predicts and tip of the caps here. We got going back to Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta has definitely been disappointing for me this year, says Matt. I expected a little bit more from him. I was really hoping he'd take a step this year, and so far, we haven't seen it. Looks like he's just pressing or maybe trying a little bit too hard. Going back to the offense, in terms of trade, I think if the Brewers were to make a trade to bolster their offense, the only position I can think of would maybe be a center fielder. But like you had mentioned earlier, it could potentially be Garrett Mitchell. I like what Blake Perkins has done so far this year, but to me, he is a fourth outfielder, bench guy that you can bring in for defensive purposes later in the game. Another texter here saying if they make a move, I wouldn't mind if they made a move for a backup third baseman that provides a little bit more power. Love what Joey Ortiz has been doing this year, and he has definitely been a bright spot for this team. But I wouldn't mind another power bat to be maybe come off the bench outside of Gary Sanchez. Okay, yeah, I mean another power bat, another maybe infielder that provides that power bat there. I wouldn't argue with that too much. I would like to see the Brewers add some more relief pitchers. I think for one, what we've seen this year with Pat Murphy and the philosophy of this team is that they're willing to be creative. And I think since the starting pitching market is going to be so expensive, the Brewers may be able to take advantage of middle relief in bullpen arms and kind of put together a pitching staff that way. That's interesting perspective. Thank you for the text. Thank you everybody for the text this morning. All right, let's take our final break and then pick some predicts. And then I got a tip of the cap to somebody. Could have put them in the weekend hangover for highs and lows, but I'm going to give them a tip of the cap instead. All right, we'll wrap up the program coming up after these quick words. Got some Final Four picks, predictions here for some of the listeners out here. They're going with Tim Harris coming out of the Packers region. Got Jeff Jenkins coming out of the Brewers region. Got Darryl Bevel coming out of the Badgers region, and then Vin Baker coming out of the Bucks/Open region. All right, interesting picks over there. Hey, if you want to make your Final Four picks based off of the names, I know it'll be easier when you look at the bracket and such. So bear with me. It'll be up shortly after we shut the mics off here for this morning. So again, make sure you're following along on the Facebook pages and Twitter pages and all that good stuff over there. Let's do some picks and predicts, though, shall we? To wrap up this morning, picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire, located right next to the Banbury Place. Maybe get out of the rain and enjoy some cool beverages over there at the Banbury Place in Eau Claire. Also, don't forget trivia nights on Wednesdays. And if you just want to talk some sports, make sure, if Garrett's over there, Garrett will talk some sports with you and such. He's got some sweet memorabilia hanging up on the walls over there, too. Makes me a little bit jealous of what he's got over there, too. I need to add some of that stuff in my man cave and such. So, all right. We've got the NBA Finals Game 5 tonight. Will Dallas extend it? Or will Boston win it? I'm going Boston tonight to win it and wrap up this series. And Boston will be NBA champions once again. So I think I'm going to go with Boston winning it tonight. Let's do. What do I want to do here? Let's do some. Yeah, we might as well do some WNBA picks here. We only got one. Dallas at Minnesota. Give me Minnesota. Minnesota wins tonight. They're favored by 10.5, and I think they cover too. So, all right, let's do some baseball picks here to wrap up our picks and predicts segment here. We've got Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Ooh, Paul's on the mound for Pittsburgh. Give me the Pirates. Pirates win tonight. We've got the Padres and the Phillies. Give me the Phillies. St. Louis at Miami. Sonny Gray's on the mound. Give me St. Louis. It'll be one game above 500. They'll have a winning record then. Boston at Toronto. Give me Toronto. Detroit at Atlanta. Give me the Braves. The Mets taking on the Rangers. Give me the Rangers. We've got the Giants visiting the Cubbies, who are 3-7 in their last 10. Sorry, Cubs fans, I got to mention it. Oh, by the way, you're in last place in the division right now. I am going to go with the Cubs. Dodgers at Colorado. Give me the Dodgers. And then tonight, Milwaukee versus the Angels. Carlos Rodriguez and his second start. I'm going to go with the Angels to get game 1 tonight. I'll go with the Angels to win game 1 tonight, going up against Jose Soriano. All right, that's your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room this morning. Tip of the cap. I'm going to go Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley announcing that this upcoming TV, or this upcoming, after this season's over with, TNT will have the NBA for one more year. And there's been a lot of talk about, hey, could they still do their program on another station? Could Charles Barkley's production company, maybe do the show and sell it elsewhere? He kind of hinted at that too on an appearance on the Dan Patrick Show a couple weeks ago. But Charles Barkley saying he's going to call it a career. After Inside the NBA is done next season, he's calling it a career. Barkley said there's been a lot of noise around our network the last few months. I just want to say I've talked to all of the other networks, but I'm not going nowhere other than TNT. But I've made the decision myself. No matter what happens, next year is going to be my last year on television. So no Charles Barkley. This will be the final year. I think Charles is going to be on TV in some capacity, maybe not full time, but he's going to make some appearances. I don't think he's going to go kind of like into the win. He's not going to be quiet, or we're never going to hear from him again. But nonetheless, I mean, that's a even if somehow inside the NBA is still a program after the upcoming season, after the following season, Shaq and Ernie and Kenny Smith are still going to be doing. It's going to be a loss not to have Barkley on there. So that means too that Barkley won't be doing college basketball games out there. So whether you agreed with his opinions or not, he was pretty darn entertaining over there. And the one thing I do appreciate about Barkley, he calls it what it is. He ain't afraid to call out whether it's LeBron or the Lakers or even his own network at times. He doesn't have a filter. He ain't afraid to call that stuff out. So it's definitely going to be a loss when he's no longer on television talking some basketball and such. So tip of the cap to Charles Barkley. Hall of Fame NBA career, and dude's won some Emmys in his post playing career too for his work on television. So, all right, weekend hangover. We've got a couple more picks here to wrap some things up from your weekend hangover. This is from Curtis. Curtis says the highs from the weekend for me were the Brewers taking another series win and continuing to play well at home. The lows, Rory McIlroy fading down the stretch and not winning the U.S. Open. This one is from Ben. Ben saying my weekend hangover was fantastic Father's Day yesterday. The lows from the weekend hangover is I am a Cubs fan, so the Cubs right now. Understandable. Completely get it. Another weekend hangover coming in at you. Weekend high for me was a fantastic weekend with the family for Father's Day. This is from, excuse me, this is from Greg. And then he says, the low for me was Contreras getting hurt on that final play. Hopefully, it's not an injury that will keep him out too long. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those situations where it was a great play, but then you're immediately wondering, like, oh boy, is Contreras going to be out for a while? He was being evaluated for concussion and such. And this is a guy that wants to play every single day, right? He tries to find a way into the lineup every single way, whether it's DH or catching. So, and I know he finally got an off day just the other, was it last week or so, maybe a week and a half ago. But we'll see if he's going to be in the lineup tonight or such. But definitely a wicked hit to play the plate from last night or from yesterday afternoon. Excuse me. So, all right, thank you everybody for your weekend hangovers, your highs and your lows. Appreciate that. Hey, tomorrow it is a Grind My Gears Tuesday. It's an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So think about what's been grinding your gears in the past week. From last Tuesday to this upcoming Tuesday. What has been grinding your gears? All right. Make it appropriate so we can talk about it on the air. So that's your homework assignment. Give me your Grind My Gears Tuesdays. Later this morning, we will post the first matchup in our most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time. Once that's posted up on our Facebook pages, please share it. Share it on your pages. Spread the word. Let's get a lot of votes on this, because the one thing I don't want to happen is that we don't get a lot of votes and people complain about who got it there. Let's get a lot of votes on this thing. All right. Let's see it. Let's decide who is the most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time. Again, I'll say it one more time, but a big thanks to all of you who nominated players, took the time to nominate players. And I mean, because all the nominations came from you. Whoever had multiple votes, whoever had the most multiple votes, are the ones that made this. Wasn't me that picked it. Wasn't just a computer that picked it. It was you, the listeners, who picked them all. And it'll be you, the listeners, who will decide who is the most underrated Wisconsin sports athlete of all time. So I'll put my votes on there for sure, but I ain't making the ultimate decision. That's going to be up to you. So once you see that, share it, spread it around, tell it to your buddies, Have a little banter back and forth with your buddies in a texting chain or an email chain if you still do that. Go back and forth on it. Tell them the vote. Let's see how it all shakes out, all right? I'm curious to see how everybody kind of votes on this. So that'll be up later this morning. The entire bracket will, and the first matchup, it will be a Brewers matchup. We're going to do a Brewers matchup to begin things for this. So take a look for that. That will be coming up within a half an hour. Okay. Probably be sooner than that, but just give me a little bit of time there. So, all right. Tomorrow, again, reminder, it's going to be a late game tonight with the Brewers. You can catch that at 105.1 FM and 790 AM. And the schedules, if you're looking at it, says 8:38. Let's round it up and just say 8:40 around first pitch tonight. So you can catch that. It'll be a light one, but we'll recap hopefully a win tomorrow morning. Look ahead to game 2. As I said, we've got Grind My Gears Tuesday. We'll catch up with the Eau Claire Express for our Tuesday chats with the Express. That'll be coming up just past 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The Express, when you're looking at their upcoming schedule here, they're at Duluth today for a couple games here. Then they're going to be back tomorrow at Carson Park, where they take on La Crosse, taking on the Loggers. So the Express picking up a 6-5 winning game 2 yesterday against Duluth. And you got a couple more coming up here today, it looks like, too. So, but they'll be back at Carson Park tomorrow night and Wednesday night, taking on their rival, the La Crosse Loggers. So also we'll catch up with RJ Cardinal. It's been a big weekend for the Badger football team in terms of recruits, and especially with that 2025 class. So we're going to have RJ tomorrow break it all down. Remember T.Y. Hilton, receiver for the Colts? His son committed to the Badger football team. If that doesn't make you feel old, I don't know then. But, hey, we got T.Y. Hilton's kid coming to Wisconsin. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Monday morning. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. I'll talk to you then.